honor to stand before you tonight to present the 10th annual Father Anselm Moons Award to my good friend and Franciscan brother, Father John O'Connor. I've known John for well over the last decade as we began to work closely together when he became the then newly elected provincial minister of the Holy Name Province back in 2005, an office that he held until just last year. I was, back then in my first year, as executive secretary working with the provincial ministers of the English-speaking Conference of the Order. In that time, I have known Father John. I have come to know a man of great intelligence, of tremendous compassion, someone who is always ready and willing to listen, and someone who's incredibly passionate about the things that he believes in, things like Franciscan mission service. So let me tell you a little bit about my friend. Father John began his journey in religious life attending St. Joseph's Seminary in Callicoon, New York, and entered the novitiate in 1967. He professed his first religious vows in 1968. John earned a bachelor's degree in philosophy from the Catholic University of America right here in Washington, and a master's in theology from Washington Theological Union. John professed his solemn vows in 1971 and was ordained a priest in 1973. His first assignment was as director of campus ministry and instructor of theology at St. Bonaventure University. And while at Bonnie's from 1973 to 1982, he helped to secure state funds for local youth programs and was instrumental in the establishment of Camp New Horizons, a therapeutic summer camp for children. He was an Allegheny Fire Department volunteer and even served 3 years as assistant chief. Father John was chaplain at Trinity College here in Washington from 1983 to 1991, while also serving as guardian and director of Holy Name College. He served as real estate director for the province and was responsible for negotiating a joint venture which resulted in the construction of a 60-story high-rise in Midtown Manhattan that houses a residence for friars and 458 apartments, 20% of which are low income. It also includes the Hope Lodge, where cancer patients can stay for free while undergoing chemotherapy. So he builds big things. Father John served as pastor of St. Francis Church in Triangle, Virginia from 1991 to 2003, and as senior chaplain for the Department of Fire and Rescue, Prince William County, from 1991 to 2005. He was elected several times to his provincial council before becoming provincial minister, as I mentioned, in 2005. He also served a term as president of the English-speaking Conference. He served as trustee of St. Bonaventure University, Siena College, Washington Theological Union, and St. Francis Friends of the Poor. The general minister of our order has continued to call on John's talents and abilities since the conclusion of his term as provincial, appointing him now to the role of executive assistant to the general minister for development and fundraising. His focus in this role is on raising funds for the works of the friars, especially in the missions and in the formation of friars in developing countries. And of course, his commitment to FMS continues as John has once again joined our board. During John's time as provincial minister, he was tirelessly devoted to supporting the mission and ministry of Franciscan mission service. He was our constant advocate and ally, both within his province and among his fellow provincials in the conference. His leadership helped FMS, especially during the last 9 years, not only to survive, but to thrive. Tonight's award honors not only John and his tremendous commitment to Franciscan mission service, but it also honors the role that Holy Name Province and the English-speaking Conference have played in the history of FMS and the partnership that we share, a partnership that was significantly strengthened during John's tenure. So it is our great joy and honor to bestow upon Father John O'Connor the 10th Annual Father Anselm Moons Award, an award which honors the legacy of our founder, a legacy which we are proud to have John O'Connor have a special place in. Please join me now in honoring John O'Connor. John, if you come.
Tom just said to me, I only have 30 minutes. Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. Your Eminence, Archbishop, friends, clergy, my brother Franciscans, it is a delight for me to be here. When our Executive Director, Kim Smolin, first told me about this award, she said to me at that point, she said, now you have 5 minutes for your little speech to respond. And I said to her, I said, 5 minutes? I have to thank my agent, my producer, my manager, the makeup people, the people who put this together, the Academy. And she said, wait a minute. You're not getting the Academy Award, you're getting the Anselm Moons Award. So I said to her, oh great, who's Anselm Moons? And I will tell you in a moment about Anselm Moons. This is for me a special honor because of what these missioners do. Some years ago, when I was pastor of our parish in Virginia, the person who was supposed to be coming in to do the mission talk, one of our friars, could not make it. And so I got up at the masses and talked about our own FMU program from Franciscan Missionary Union and the great work that they did. And I did it in terms of 10 reasons why I highly respect missioners and why I never became one. And in doing that, I really emphasized the fact of the incredible courage that they have in order to leave everything they know, somewhat comfortable life, certainly here in the United States, to go somewhere and have to learn a whole new language, be able to be individuals who can be integrated into a whole different culture, and give up most of what most of us would take for granted. Some years ago, when I was coming back from our mission in Lima, Peru, where we work in the southern part of the city, in the poorest of the poor areas, I had always heard our missionaries would come back and say there's a culture shock, especially if you've been there for a number of years. I was there only for about a week or so and came back, got off the plane in Atlanta, where my sister lives, and as I drove out of the airport, I thought to myself, my God, what a difference. I mean, to see what we have here in the United States and what so many people in the world, a good part of the world, does not have. And yet they survive, they're human beings, and that I just have the highest respect for missionaries and for the lay missionaries here especially, with families and that leave, do this for a year or 2 or 3 years and that. And so for me, it's always been a special endeavor to be part of this. The second reason that this is special for me is Anselm. I was kidding you when I said, who's Anselm Moons? I knew Anselm very well. Back when I was appointed the Director of Holy Name College, Superior of the Community, Guardian of the Community, Director of Post-Mission Formation, I was in my 30s, a young guy to have all that responsibility. And this one day, this great person, friar, came into my life by the name of Anselm Moons. And he lived with myself in the community at Holy Name for a period of time as he was beginning to develop the program that you've heard referred to this evening. And here I am, a young guy, 34, and this man walks into our community to live with us who's a giant already at that point in the world of Franciscans. In terms of what he had done, the Minister General recently told me, which I thought myself was true, that he was on the General Definitorium. He was a leader, a known leader. And it could have been kind of threatening for me, and it wasn't in the beginning. But I can't tell you what a great individual he was and what a great person he was as an advisor to me during the period of time that he lived there. We became good friends. People often say to me, if you were going to summarize what it takes to be a Franciscan and who Franciscans should really reflect and model in their lives, I talk about 3 people. The first one, of course, Francis of Assisi, this great Christocentric man who lived the gospel and challenged all of us to live the gospel as Jesus walked the earth, to walk the same way in terms of compassion and generosity and forgiveness, which is what Francis did. Francis, a great person in terms of respect for all of creation, which more than ever today is becoming important. Pope Francis soon will send forth this encyclical to all of us to talk about that, and how important it is as we look at the challenges of global warming in our society now. So Francis clearly is the person that we Franciscans want to emanate in our lives. The second, I would say, is St. Bonaventure. Because, as perhaps some people don't know, Franciscans have from early times excelled in education. We taught in the great universities in Europe, and to this day we still have some of the great scholars in the world. And I think it's very much a part of our tradition to strive for intellectual excellence. And the third person I would suggest to you friars should model their life after, and this one will surprise you, and it is from folklore. It's Friar Tuck from Robin Hood. Why Friar Tuck? Because Friar Tuck, if you've watched many movies, retakes of Robin Hood and that, he's the guy down to earth. He's the guy that reminds you of all the foibles of our humanity. And he's the guy who helps you to say, okay, we had that, but we can be better than that. He's the guy who reminds us that as Franciscans, we are there to really be the servants of others, to be the simple people who don't hold whatever status we might have in life over others, but rather to use it to serve and help people in life. And Friar Tuck's a great example of that. And as I think of those three people, Francis of Assisi, and I think of St. Bonaventure, and I think of Friar Tuck, and I think of Anselm, he was an example of all of those people. For all of us at that time at Holy Name College, the students in formation, and we professed friars. And so it is for me today a great honor to receive this award in his name. Thank you.